Hi there, and welcome to another episode of African Business Stories, your insight into female innovators and entrepreneurs building and running businesses in Africa. I'm Gbenga Oyebode, and on the show today, we're switching it up a bit. We're going to pause from talking about our amazing female entrepreneurs and focus on our fathers. In honor of Father's Day, we've put together a special series titled Lessons and Legacy. It's a collection of conversations with some of my friends and mentors from around Africa on lessons they've learned from their parents and from experiences and the personal legacies they would like to leave for their children. These were all insightful conversations outside of the boardroom. On this episode, I catch up with Mr. Gbenga Oyebode, founding partner and chairman of Aluko Oyebode, the largest full-service law firm in Nigeria. We talked about how his mom played a dual role in his childhood, the values she instilled in him, and the need to be intentional while juggling a busy career and fatherhood. Enjoy. Good evening, sir. It's such a pleasure and an honor to have you today on African Business Stories.
Pleasure to be here.
So real quick, I just wanted to clarify, were you born in Ekiti State or in England?
I went to school in Ado Ekiti, but I was actually born in London. My parents were going to school. My father was in the University of London. In those days that all the Nigerians went out on the same boat, the MV Oriole, to London and back. And so I went with got born in London and came back literally before I was even 2. I was back in Nigeria. Yeah, so we were back here. But we're from Ekiti, and I actually went to high school. I went to Christ School Ekiti. Yes.
So just looking back, I was just wondering, the values and the lessons that you learned from your parents and maybe even your grandparents while you were growing up, and how that has impacted this amazing career that you have.
Look, I think, to put life in a bit of perspective. So came back to Nigeria at age 2. My father was a civil servant, worked in the meteorological department of the Nigerian government. My mother worked at Barclays Bank pretty much all her working life. So what were those values that were critical to most of the things? What did I learn? Was that education was important. And that the reason, I'm sure you hear the age-old stories about the Ekiti people. In every family, there are a couple of professors. And very similar to my family. At the last count, there are three professors in the immediate family, and so a couple of PhDs. And I think that for me, from a very young age, it was important that first and foremost that I paid attention to education and that I achieved through education. I think it was also the values of the Nigeria of the 1960s, totally different from today's values. I think, most people worked in civil service. I can't remember that we had a billionaire that I recognized or resonated with in those days. I think if there were any real successful people, there were people who worked in the civil service and retired. So it was always important for what I was trying to achieve, that education was important to me. Side by side with that was that it was always also important that you be a bit circumspect in life. And I say circumspect more because very strong religious values, and so from that perspective, you sort of did what you had to do, but you also understood that life was not just yours, that you lived in a community, that stakeholders were around you, and that you asked for divine help and inspiration almost on a regular daily basis. I think the other thing that my parents did that was, I think, helped was that while I grew up in Lagos, all of us had gone to a school in Ekiti, in Ekiti State, called Christ School, Ado Ekiti. And Christ School was a mission school. In the good old days, was one of the best high schools in the country. And so education at Christ School was not negotiable. All my father went, my siblings went, literally everybody in the family went to Christ School. And Christ School taught me one particular lesson that I hold on to today. That while I may have come from Lagos from relatively comfortable circumstances at that time, that I went to Christ School with people who were not as comfortable as I was. But by the way, were more intelligent than I was. They were the ones who got all the great grades, and so I needed to be sure that So the Yorubas have this proverb about how the fingers are not equal, and so I learned very very early in life that what you bring to the game is your A game, and you keep trying to push that agenda, through education, through hard work, through striving, and that you take nothing for granted. So I think for me, very, very early, there were lessons pretty much all around education. My brother has this thing he says a lot about how, so if you happen to be, to have made a fortune, just remember it's because you're fortunate. So the etymology of fortune and fortunate go together. And so I've always felt that to whom much is given, much is expected. So I picked up all of those lessons at a very young age, and has helped me through my life.
So a lot has been written about Gbenga Oyebode, the legal luminary, the business expert. I was just wondering if we can, because it is Father's Day we're celebrating, what your approach to parenting has been over the years.
Let me tell you, I have three children, 19, 20, and my daughter is going to be 26 tomorrow, Saturday. And what I try and tell them, what I try and show them, is that as much as it is that I love my children, as much as it is that I want them to think of life as easygoing, I also want them to understand. And again, I do these Yoruba things all the time. The Yoruba say that life has two sides. And the direct translation is really about how you must understand that it may be sweet today, could also be extremely rough tomorrow. And so my perspective of life is to always present a picture of never take anything for granted. And I'll tell you why that particularly works for me. I lost my father when I was 12, and was essentially brought up by my mother. So sometimes people ask me, you've achieved so much, so tell us how it's happened. And I say to them, it was because my mother was tough on us. Tough on us because she wanted us to achieve. Tough on us because she wanted us to know that we had a great run when my father was the breadwinner and around us, and that she had to be both mother and father to us. And so, it's always been one of the things that I hold dear to my heart, that you must always understand that things could be extremely great today and take a turn the very next day. But that in spite of that strength of character, that values around hard work are what takes you forward. And that challenges and tests and curveballs come with everything you do. And so for me, it's always been one of the things that I've engaged my children with, to say, look, please don't ever think that, just almost like nothing lasts forever, but we will try very hard to love, to give you a great life, but you must also be strong. You must also be forward-looking. You must also be circumspect and proactive. All of these were things that I learned as a young person. The sudden death of my father, what it did was sent a signal around. You needed to be needed to be ready for challenges and changes. I give my mother a lot of credit, because without her tough mindedness, without her attention to us, to all the children, without her making sure that at a young age her children understood that they may have lost their father, but that she would do all that was necessary to give the very best, even though in those days it was tough enough, not having a father figure at such a young age. And I think the fact that all of that happened to me, but that I still pushed through, tried to work hard, learned the lessons. My mother is 85 now, and I still remember, the sort of tough love that came through at that time. But I give her all the credit, because I wouldn't be what I am today if that tough love wasn't there.
I say thank you to Mama. That's such an amazing story. It's
Yeah.
such an amazing story, and one that I can relate to personally. So thank you so much, sir, for sharing that. So how would your children are all grown now, but how would they describe you, their dad?
Oh God, you asked me a question that's tough. Uh, I think they would say that he tries to be tough on us, and that he's but that he's fair.
Hmm.
Um, his principles. He stands by his principles. He holds on to his principles. But at the points where they need support, that he's always there. And I don't say this lightly. As much as it is that I travel a lot for business, and I was on a different plane every other week, the stability in the household was provided by my wife.
Right.
So I will give her the credit very, very, very quickly, because there was a 15 to 20-year period where I was trying to grow a business, grow the law firm, grow my all the things that I was trying to do, and I was on the road a lot. But one of the things that I think my children will remember, and I hope they do, is that I was always there for every baseball game. I was always there for every swimming competition. I was always there for every concert. Whenever I was in town, I made sure that I dropped them in school. I picked them up. I came to parent teachers. I came to, so I always made sure that when I was in town, I overperformed because I was away a lot. So I think that my hope and prayer is that my children will remember that, as much as it is that I was away, that when I was available, I made sure I was always in their faces. Made sure that it didn't matter, and even when they went to high school in the U.S., if there was a Parents' Day that I had to get on a plane to attend, I did. Even if it just meant going all the way up to Exeter, New Hampshire, and spending one night, I did it, because I think it was important to show up, but more importantly, it was important to support them.
That's just an amazing story and very inspiring approach. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for sharing the time with us, and have a wonderful Father's Day.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. That was one of many conversations in the Father's Day special, Lessons and Legacy. All the conversations in the series are available on my website, www.africanbusinessstories.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, on the Apple Podcast app, or the Google Podcast app. And do leave us a review so we know how we're doing. I am Akego Okoye, and you have been listening to African Business Stories.